Well, let's head to U.S. Cellular Field, and joining us for the MASN broadcast booth, Brittany Ghiroli of MLB.com. You can read all her doings of the Orioles on Orioles.com. And Brittany, let's start with Jim Johnson, who is off to a fabulous start. 5 for 5 in save opportunities, clearly emerging as an elite closer in the league. But I think a true barometer about a closer is, what does the opposition think and say about him? What's going on with Jim Johnson in terms of his growing reputation around the league?
The White Sox clubhouse was buzzing the other night, Jim, after he picked up his 5th save of the season. Paul Konerko said he's one of the most underrated guys in the league. He said everyone knows about him. He's just a guy who is not a big name, so to speak. And he said after that this year, he thinks that will change. Jim Johnson is the one guy the Red Sox didn't want to face. Orioles bench coach DeMarlo Hale has said in the past he was the guy who they really did not want to see. He's a guy who has a rare combination in that if he's not throwing that 94-95, he comes at you with that curveball. His ball has sink. He's really stepped up. And I talked to Jim a little bit today and said, what's the difference? You were a guy who really struggled in the 9th inning a few years ago. And he said, you know, Brittany, through failure comes success. I think I learned a lot. I'm wiser. And I really have taken to the 9th inning with a much more approach than I had when I was younger and I was just a thrower. He said he's becoming a pitcher now. If he doesn't have that 94-95, he's okay locating at 92. And to me, I think he's going to have a big year. And I don't think I'm alone in that, just from what you get from around the league.
Well, along those lines, Brittany, it is true you do learn from adversity. And Nick Markakis right now going through a cold spell. He is 4 for his last 39 with 1 RBI over the last week and a half. But he is a proven slow starter in April. What is he doing to make those adjustments that he tinkers with really day in and day out to try to get this thing going in a positive direction?
He is tinkering a little bit. They're very small adjustments. I know people were worried. They said, well, I thought this was going to be the year that he had a consistent stance. What he's doing is moving around a little bit with his hands, trying to find an area that's comfortable for him. He had those 2 great games coming out of the gate. Physically, I don't think it's an issue. Nick Markakis is not a guy who would tell you even if it was, but he is just slumping. He's been a streaky hitter throughout his career. The Orioles hope they can jumpstart him and get him going before he gets out there to Anaheim. And talking to Markakis last night, he said, you know, I'll get through this. This is just a little bump here, and hopefully we can get things going. And right now, some of his teammates are picking him up, including Nolan Reimold, Matt Wieters, and Adam Jones.
Well, and again, he's a proven hitter. He's a .260 career April hitter. That's his worst month in his career, so he certainly knows how to bounce back. And we looked it up. He had a 6 for 47 drought last April, so certainly he knows how to adjust and move on. Another topic making the rounds on this road trip is the fact that Brian Roberts is on the road trip. He was in Toronto. He's in Chicago as he continues back from the concussion syndrome. Is Brian going to continue on to Anaheim, and what's the update on his progress trying to get back on the field?
Brian Roberts told me this morning that he is planning on going to Anaheim. He was mulling it over yesterday. He got the okay from his doctors, and to me that's a very good sign, because he had told us in Toronto in the first leg of this road trip, look, I don't think I'm going to be able to go to Anaheim. I don't know if I'll be able to get my work in. It might be better to go back to Baltimore. But right now he's with the team. He's happy. He was working out with Brady Anderson before the game here just a few minutes ago on the field, and all signs point to him progressing and not having any setbacks. To me, it's a big deal that he's going to Anaheim. It shows that he's going to adjust to the travel. He can handle a road trip where you're going to West Coast, East Coast, up to Toronto, and he hasn't had any problems. So there's no timeline with him, but to me, that's a positive step.
So, Brittany, no timeline, and Brian keeps saying, hey, it's one day at a time, the old baseball cliche, but sooner or later, you got to believe if this continues, he's got to be sent out to see some live pitching. Wouldn't that be the next step?
That would definitely be the next step. He's doing everything on the field. He's taking pregame BP. He's very careful to kind of stay out of the way, but his teammates love having him around. He's a guy who's really helped to mentor some of the younger guys as well, helping out Robert Andino a lot and Adam Jones. And more and more, I think he's going to play this year. I think he's a guy you're going to see sooner rather than later.
All right, and another player trying to make his way back to the Orioles, which would be for the first time with the Orioles, and that's Tsuyoshi Wada, who began the year on the DL. He had his first rehab assignment today. It did not go very well at Norfolk. 2 2/3 innings, 6 runs on 6 hits. What are the reports on Wada, and what's the next step for him?
The Orioles wanted Wada to get to 100 pitches. I think he got right around 73 today. So he's a guy who wants to be 100% when he's up here. He understood why he was kept back in extended spring. He doesn't want to come up here if he's not 100% physically. Executive Vice President of Baseball Operations Dan Duquette was in attendance today, and I would not be surprised if he gets at least one more rehab start to get his feet underneath him. Gwinnett is supposed to be a pitcher's park in AAA. It's the Braves affiliate down there. So it's not a case of his surroundings or anything like that. I think he just just needs a little bit more work, a little bit more time. What's helping matters is the fact that the Orioles starting rotation, by and large, has been pretty good. So it's not a case where they absolutely need to rush him and get him back up here. Zach Britton as well is another guy, injury reports I get asked about a lot. He's on a throwing progression program. He's continuing to build up arm strength, working down in Sarasota with Chris Correnti, who's the kind of the director of the pitching rehab down there. And I spoke with Britton the other day. He seems encouraged that the PRP that he got, the injection in his left shoulder, is working as well. So those two are progressing along, and right now the Orioles are going to have to deal with what they have up here.
Yeah, this is a good problem to have, because if everybody's healthy, they have too many pitchers for spots, and that's a good thing, because that means you got to keep the hold on that spot on the staff. Otherwise, you're going to be shipped out and somebody else brought in. Brittany Ghiroli joining us from U.S. Cellular Field in Chicago. Pre-game thoughts from Brittany. Check her out on Orioles.com.